right, welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass, where business growth is made simple. Listen as we discuss best practices to streamline your operations, increase your profits, and ultimately create healthier, more stable, and more valuable companies. Today's guest was David Conklin, the owner. He is a serial entrepreneur and owner of Little Guys Movers, F45 here in town, and the Adelphus Winery and Cellars.
Event center.
And event center. Serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
Man, what a interview with so many stories, so many colorful stories.
Yeah.
Kellen, what was your number one takeaway?
Get in the emu business when it's hot. That is a fun story. I would say, man, there's so many good things. He's one of my favorite guests we've ever had on. He talked a lot about culture and building a great team. And you can tell he's a very strategic leader, thinking about things ahead of the game. But I think probably my biggest takeaway was talked about waking up at 3 a.m. and thinking about, why am I in this? And the struggle that every business owner goes through at some point. And just the grit to stay in there, and that's sort of a pivotal moment for everybody, is the decision to keep going even when it's hard. And anyway, it was such a good interview. What about you?
That is timely for the state of our world right now, and what so many entrepreneurs are feeling. What stuck out to me was how intentional and proactive he has been with all of the relationships of every employee in all three of his business, that he is constantly pouring into those relationships and building up his people, that then they grow and become rock stars and run parts of his operations and businesses. And that hasn't been by accident.
No.
And so I think that will definitely stick out in the interview. You're going to enjoy this one.
Yeah.
Buckle up. He has great stories. Enjoy the podcast. All right. We are live. Welcome to the podcast, David Conklin.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for letting me be here.
Yeah. Glad to have you.
Glad to have you. I've told you this. My father-in-law's name is David Conklin. So anytime this week talking to my wife, he's like, "Who's coming on your podcast?"
David Conklin.
The other David Conklin.
The other.
Yeah.
Well, we are a entrepreneurial podcast, and so really want to get in. What do you? I know you're a serial entrepreneur. You have a lot of different businesses going on, but kind of give us your story. What are you up to these days? What do you do for a living?
Well, I do have a few businesses going. I'll just kind of cap over those real quickly. Little Guys Movers. That's kind of the foundation of what I do. We spend probably half of my time at Little Guys. We have locations in Lubbock, College Station, San Antonio, Greensboro, and Wilmington, North Carolina. So those 5 locations keep us pretty busy. And in that aspect, because most of the locations are remote, those are a lot of times Google Hangouts or meetings or something like that. So I have a GM, Michael Pruitt, who pretty much runs that company, and a national director of operations who helps the guys at each location. So for that, it's just kind of long-term planning, motivation, goal setting, those kind of things, some administrative responsibilities, but that's what happens with Little Guys. The second business we own is called F45. It's a personal training fitness studio. And I really started that with my daughter, Lacey, who manages and operates those. We have 2 locations, one in Lubbock and one in Amarillo. So she oversees those, and I'm available to help her with whatever struggles or challenges that she has in those. And then we have some rental properties, but that's kind of on auto. I've got a management company that manages that, so I deal with that a little bit. But the most recent business that we got into was the winery, Adelphus Cellars Winery, and we're building a facility over on 112th in Indiana. And right now, that's probably taking up more of my time than anything, just the building. I have a partner in that winery, and he manages the winery. He makes the wine, and takes care of all that, and they do a fantastic job. I kind of help them with the business aspect of it, but they don't need a lot of help. But it's been my responsibility to take care of the building of this building, and so it's been good. It's been fun.
That's so cool. We met at F45, which, by the way, I think is the best workout you can get in Lubbock.
Well, thanks for the plug.
Yeah, it's a great place. But just talking to you and learning about all that you got your hands in, I think everybody else would be wondering too how you got started as an entrepreneur.
Man, I kind of think my dad was in business for himself. He owned a pipeline company and a construction company, and he did a few things, and then he sold that towards the end of his career and worked for HB Zachary, the company that he sold his pipeline company to. So I always saw that, and I think I've always had a little bit of that. When I went to college, I went to college to be an ag teacher. I was an ag teacher for 2 years, and that was great. It was fun. It was hard work.
Yeah.
But it just really wasn't for me. I just knew that my heart really wasn't in it after I'd done it a couple of years. And so decided not to teach school. My wife was working on her master's. We decided to move to Lubbock, where it would be a little more convenient for her. She got a job teaching in Idlewild. She loved it. She retired from teaching. She would have paid them to come teach if she had to, she just loved it. And but she came up here, worked on her master's. I got in the emu and ostrich business for a very short time, about 2 years at that point.
Was that late 90s?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was late 90s.
I remember that trend. I remember that trend. That was peak Jurassic Park.
It was
like
crazy.
10-year-old Albert, they might as well have been raptors.
Right.
All right. For those of us who don't know about this, can you tell me a little bit about emu and ostrich business?
Yeah. So the emu and ostrich business, so it was exploding, and ostrich and emus were a commodity that people were trading for breeding purposes with this projected, you're going to use emu oil and emu meat, all this stuff. Now, none of that really ever came to pass because it all crashed down. But yeah, one of the you said we're going to talk about like what are your biggest wins and your biggest losses, and just from a pure dollars and cents, I'd found some birds, some emus over in eastern New Mexico, and the market was just going like this, just going crazy. Every day they were worth more. So it's hard to find. It's hard to buy them because people didn't want to sell them. So we were raising ostriches. We had breeding pairs. We had this big, huge incubator that was nearly the size of this room, a nature form incubator that had all these eggs, ostrich and emu eggs in it. But we were always looking for birds, and I found these birds over in eastern New Mexico. This guy wanted to sell them. I don't know why he wanted to sell them, but I asked him what he wanted for them. They were yearling emus. So they were about a year old pairs, male, female. And he wanted $1,000 a pair for them, which was probably half price.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, I'll come look at them. So I went over there. They looked good. I took cash. Cash was king in that business.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I took cash over there. I gave him $12,000. I'm driving back from eastern New Mexico. It's about 2.5 hour drive to my house. And this guy who was a big emu trader in Lubbock calls me and he goes, hey man, I got some buyers. They want some birds. I'm looking for some birds. I said, what are you looking for? He said, anything, just anything I can buy. I said, well, I got 12 pair of yearling emus. And he goes, what do you want for them? I said, I don't know. I don't know what they're worth. He said, let me call you back. So in 20 minutes, I'm still maybe an hour from my house. He calls me and he goes, they'll give you $12,000 a pair for them. Oh. I said, I'll just meet you at your house in about 45 minutes. So I just turned. I never unloaded those birds at my house. I just brought them straight to his house, and he paid me cash for them.
That's amazing.
It was crazy. Yeah, I thought I'd never have a poor day again. But a few years later, it took a couple years, the market kind of crashed. It got saturated and the market crashed. But we kind of got out before that happened, so it was good.
That is amazing.
It's an interesting story.
That's rare that I get to hear from anybody who also jumped on that bandwagon.
I'll tell you another funny story. I'll try to make it short because my stories are too long. But my brother-in-law, we're going to California to buy some ostriches, and again, it's all cash. Nobody wants to deal in checks. They want cash money on the barrelhead. So we're driving out there. I've probably got $160K in my briefcase, and my brother-in-law's probably got close to the same thing. And we're on the interstate in Arizona, right by Nogales, and we cross over the top of the hill, and Highway Patrol's got a big roadblock.
Oh no!
And I look over at my brother-in-law and I said, "Bro, if they find that cash, we are not leaving the facility."
Mm-hmm. Drug dealers, that's
So,
their
we pulled up there. They were like, "What are y'all doing?" And we said, "We're headed to California to buy some oranges and emus." We had a trailer and everything on there, and his name of his business was painted on the side. Go ahead. But we were breathing a little heavy there for a second.
I bet.
But we hadn't done anything illegal.
Yeah.
But just that cash,
just the look of it, yeah,
would have been funny.
Emu dealers,
yeah,
watch out.
Exactly. So after we got out of that, when in college, I started making custom boots. I learned how to make boots. So I did that through college, and a little bit when I was teaching school. I had a little shop. In the evenings, I'd make some boots and do some stuff. So there was a boot and shoe repair shop for sale here in Lubbock, and I bought that in 1994, maybe 93, late 93, early 94.
What was the name of that?
Flint. Well, it was A-Cuff Boot and Shoe Repair when I bought it. We kept the name for 2 years, and then I found a guy who taught me to make hats. So we started making custom. I went and bought all the equipment for custom hat making. We bought all that stuff and moved it in there, and we changed it to Flint Boot and Hat Shop. It's still on the corner, 34th and Flint.
I remember.
Yeah, right there. So I did that for 14 years.
Wow. So was that at the same time as the emu business, or?
That was right after the emu business.
Okay.
And there was about a 2-year lap from the time I sold that business until when I started Little Guys 2 years before I sold. The young man that I sold that to, who still has it today, is doing a fantastic job. Jared Kofeld worked for me for a few years before he bought it. He was a college student, learned to make hats, was fantastic. So he's taken it and, run with it and done a lot of great things over there.
Wow. So you had Little Guys that you started before?
I started, I bought the A-Cuff, which turned to Flint. And then about 10 years into that business, I got involved with Little Guys.
Okay.
And Jared ran that for 2 years for me. And then when he graduated from college, I'm like, yeah, maybe it's time I should sell this to you.
Yeah.
And so it worked out perfect.
Cool.
It was good for him. It was good for me. So there was a little 2-year overlap of Flint and Little Guys.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got Little Guys going in 2007, February of 2007, and we've just been trying to grow that ever since.
You described Little Guys as pretty much every small business owner's dream, their idea of what they're trying to build this thing to. And you described it as you have these kind of satellite locations, you have a general manager, you have these teams that are leading each satellite, and it's this machine.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it wasn't always that way, or was it?
Not well, in the strictest form, it's a franchise.
Okay.
But in right now there are maybe 10 corporate stores and my franchise, and there's 3 other franchisors. But for years, until a couple of years ago, it was just me. It was the corporate stores and me.
Oh wow.
It was nearly like a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an interesting way that happened. My father-in-law played football at Baylor, and one of the guys that he played football with, his roommate, were lifelong friends. His name was Ben Kerr. And Ben's daughter married this guy named Marcus Watson, who started Little Guys. I married into the other side of the family. They would do stuff together. A couple of times a year, they have big family gatherings, and so I met Marcus, and 2 or 3 years after I met him, I probably met him in 2005, 2004. Yeah, 2003 or 2004. And he would tell me about Little Guys, and he had opened a store in Colorado Springs, and they opened a store in Fort Collins. And I was like, man, every time I see this guy, he's got a new store going. Yeah. And then one year he said, I think we're going to franchise. I was like, hey, I kind of want to look at that, see if I can get in on that. So that's how that worked. So they helped us. They had already had about 15 years of experience. So they had a lot of really good systems in place. And so Yeah, no, it's not always just like super smooth and easy. Everything's perfect. We've had a couple of fails. We opened a store in Tulsa and had to shut it down. And we opened a store in Gainesville, Florida, and we shut it down.
What
Different
happened?
reasons.
What happened there?
I think Tulsa was the third store that we'd put in, and it was a little further, more remote than College Station was our second location. We just got really lucky in College Station and got the right guy from the very get-go. You know, a guy that really did a good job down there and really took a hold of it and treated it like his own and did that. And we just really struggled in Tulsa, not only in hindsight, you know, not only did we struggle with our managers, but we struggled with employees. We just had a hard time. Tulsa, and, you know, I'm sure not saying anything bad about either one of these locations, but Tulsa is kind of like the Midland, Odessa of Texas. It's a lot of gas, a lot of oil, and we really struggled to hire good quality employees.
They could get paid better.
Yeah, they could get paid better
going out in the
working out in the oil field.
That makes sense.
Natural gas fields, a lot of big natural gas fields there. And so we just struggled. I think if we did it today, we could do it because I just have another 12 or 15 years of experience. But that was early on, and I think that was our struggle. And, you know, we just spun our wheels. Gainesville was relatively recent, and I've always felt like that we could just nearly operate in any market, but Gainesville there was a couple of moving companies that were really deeply rooted in Gainesville, Florida, and they were really good. I mean, hey, it's great. There's other great companies out there, right? But we just could never crack. We could just never crack it. We had good guys there. We just struggled, and we were in a situation where we were, you know, coming off of 2020, 2021, and 2022. We didn't have a lot of cash to burn, you know, so we're like, yeah, we're just going to shut this down. So we've definitely had some struggles and hard times, but, you know, it is the dream of the entrepreneur, and what attracted me to it was the duplicatability, right? The systems, how the systems work and what happens, and generally they're pretty successful. Not always.
Yeah. You learn a lot along the way. I could
figure that out. Yeah.
So if you were talking to somebody who's got business experience and they wanted to start a new store in a new market, you know, kind of like you've done, what advice would you give them to think about that first?
I think, you know, it's really simple, and it's not anything that anybody doesn't know, but it's just really all about the people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always all about the people. You have to have, if you're going to have remote locations, you have to have really good systems in place, right? You have to have a systems mentality, right? We got to check every one of these off every day. We got to make sure these systems are working. And people like to implement their own systems, right? And I always think of it like a baby mobile, like, if you pull this over here, this thing over here is going to move. And, you know, people don't think about that a lot.
Unintended consequences.
Right, unintended consequences. So you got to have really good systems. I think what makes people really good in those type situations where they're a manager, they're running that store. They're, you know, in our little guy system, we call them the branch manager and the director of operations. Those two guys are the main, they're the head guys there. And so they're making the decisions. They're making 1,000 decisions every day. So try to keep them in color inside the line, stay inside the system, and be transparent. If you could just be transparent, hey, listen, we ask you to make 1,000 decisions every day. I don't care if you make some wrong ones. I make wrong ones.
Yeah.
Right? Just be transparent so we can see what you did, why you did it, and then give me the ability to say, hey, next time, maybe we should think about doing it this way, or maybe we could do it this way, you know? And so I think the transparency. So success would be having a good person who's honest and transparent. Everything else can kind of work itself out. But if they're not transparent, then you don't know what's going on, and they're struggling, and they don't want to struggle, but they don't want to share that with you, and you can't help them.
Yeah.
Then it just becomes a spiraling down thing.
Yeah.
We've seen that too.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
That building. So this is a common theme that we've heard over and over from entrepreneurs is people are everything. If you have the right team, there's nothing they can't do. So is there anything you could share of how do you find those people? Because that's one of the biggest intimidating things. We have a couple of clients right now. They're like, how are we going to find that next person to be what we need? How do you go about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I had an answer for that,
yes,
I probably wouldn't be sitting right here right now. I'd be doing something different. But really though, no, I mean that in kind of a joking way, because I really appreciate you guys inviting me here.
I'm so offended.
I could see it on your face. I think, it's the most success we have is bringing the guys up from the inside. Mm-hmm. We hire a lot of college guys. Most of them have got a lot of really good things going on in their life, and they're moving and shaking, and they're just getting through college. And, those guys in the summertime when we're super busy get really good tips. They can make a couple of grand a week, so it's a great college gig, and we have a lot of guys that are full-time that it's more than just a college gig for them. But we have a lot of guys that come on that are, really sharp guys that maybe they don't think this is going to be their career, but something every once in a while we get one of those guys, just something changes and they're like, man, I'd like to, continue. They just continue to move up in the rankings. Yeah. We have a system called raises and ranks, so that so that every few months those guys can get a raise. They take on more responsibility. They can get a raise, and they can do more for us. We can do more for them. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest success we've had is with guys that just start out as movers, as college guys, or when I say college guys, more like college age guys, not necessarily just college guys. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, 21, 22, 24-year-olds, they're not sure what they want to do. They're going to make some fast money. And then some of them like it. Yeah. I think one of the keys to success, no matter what business you're in, it doesn't really matter, is culture, right? Company culture. And so we work really hard at that. We have monthly meetings where we ask our management team to cook food for the guys. Yes, we could order it in, we could do all that stuff, but I want you to go out there, fire the grill up. I want you to cook for them. I want you to serve them a little bit. They work for us. They work hard for us every day, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to serve them a little bit. That's part of that culture, And so we spend a lot of time and money and effort on culture at all the companies that I have. But I learned it really in little guys, that it's so important.
Okay. That another thing that keeps showing up, and you articulated it well through your story, is a lot of these like senior rock star leaders that you have. They started out doing the grunt work, right? Doing the hard work. And over time, you see their character. You see they get it. They want it. They want to show up. They want to work hard. They want to take on responsibility. And it's just one of those things over time that they build experience and build trust with you and rapport with you. And you see their drive that eventually they grow into that position. And that, I think that's one of those, rules of thumb or just common things that we keep hearing from entrepreneurs, that's a lot of what you have to do. And it's not an easy answer. No. It's not a quick answer.
No, it's not.
But building that rapport, building that relationship, and building that person up. Now you have this business that is thriving with these people that you care about because you poured years into them, and they care about you because you've helped them attain a different level of life and thriving and all of the soft skills that come with that. And that's amazing that theme keeps showing up, and that's awesome.
Well, I don't know what parameters we have on this show, but I'm a Christian.
Yes, bring it. Don't hold back.
I've been very blessed in my life. A lot of times in spite of myself. A lot of times in spite of myself. But one thing that God has never let me slack on, and I've known that those blessings aren't just for me. Those blessings are for all those guys that work for us. Yeah. Those are for those families. They have families. They have kids. They have kids that are going to school. They need school supplies. They need clothes. They need all the things that they need. And I've known all along that those blessings that God provided for me were not just for me. Those were for the whole organization, for all the people. And that's the way I've always looked at that. And so, and I don't know that I've always felt this way or known this, but at some point in my career, I realized that it's not a privilege for that guy to work for me. It's a privilege for me for that guy to work, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not doing him a favor. He's doing me a favor. There's this old school thing when I was growing up, it was like, hey, just be lucky you got a job.
Yeah.
Just be happy that you get to work and get to work. You know what I mean? And that was kind of okay. And that was kind of the way we looked at it. And that's kind of the way it was. But with the ease of information and the ability to find a new job and move around and do all those things, we really had to change our paradigm and thought processes. Like, hey, don't be lucky I'm giving you this job. Man, listen, I appreciate you working with us. And I want to, I want to show you that through pay. But money doesn't motivate people very good. You give somebody a raise, they feel real happy about it for a few weeks, and then that's just a paycheck. Yeah. That's my paycheck, bro. You owe me that, which I do. I owe them that paycheck. Absolutely. They come and work hard. So relationships, building those relationships. And we have 300 employees. I don't know every single one. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I got a relationship with 300 guys.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of mouths and families.
But we got to make sure that relationship is strong all the way down, from maybe the master crew leader to the crew leaders in the field, and from the crew leaders to the crew members in the field, from the director of ops to the master crew leader and all those guys. And so it's just a thing that's super important to us that we maintain those relationships, because I think that's what makes us successful.
Do you find that, sorry, I just was going to ask, you were saying having your guys serve dinner or, cook for your team is like, do you find that kind of mindset is contagious whenever you're trying to create that culture when you're serving from the top down?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're trying to accomplish. And it's not really, I mean, there is that motivation that we have to be successful by doing that, but really it is to serve those guys. That's, if you do it with that heart. And the other thing we do that I'm really proud of at Little Guys is we really get involved in the community, and we hardly ever stroke somebody a check, but we donate a lot of service. And I think that we're members of the Chamber of Commerce nearly everywhere we're at. I assume we are everywhere we're at. And so that's kind of a hub to find a lot of nonprofit organizations who need help. Yeah. Right? They need help doing things. And so we volunteer to move things for them. We volunteer to haul stuff around. We volunteer to set things up. And we pay our guys when they go do that, but they kind of get a little bit of that bug of volunteerism, right? I kind of feel good about helping this organization out, and I kind of do that. So that's another thing I think that works, because we kind of do that from the top down, but I think our guys get some good exposure on that, and some feel goods about their company and about themselves.
Very cool.
I think so many people, it's a buzzword, but they overcomplicate culture. And really what you're describing is building these real, authentic relationships with your people by serving them, which looks a lot like Christianity.
Yeah. It's rooted in your faith. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I mean, it is. And that's a kind of a fine line, because I want to share my beliefs with all my guys, and I will, but I don't require that to be them. We've got great guys that work for us that are not Christians. We got, that are different religions, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's still, I believe, a natural law, right? It's just a natural law. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Yeah. It's pretty simple.
Good will come of that.
Yeah, good will come.
Yeah.
And so we do that with our employees. We do that with our clients, and we've been very blessed.
Very cool.
So what's next for Little Guys? You've got
also
a bunch of locations, 300 employees.
Our employee count it ebbs and flows. We're super busy in the winter. We nearly double in the winter, and we'll cut down in half in the summer, which is super challenging, right? That's another super challenging.
Yeah.
And where sometimes a lot of young college guys really work well because they can come work for 3 months and then they kind of disappear. So that works pretty good. So that is also a big challenge at Little Guys, is the seasonality of the business.
Yeah. Can you say more about how you deal with that? Because we have a lot of business owners in different areas that have seasonal businesses.
Yeah.
What are some tricks of the trade you have there?
Well, I mean, tap all your guys. You know, do you have some friends who want a job? Do you know, what's going on there? I think we get a lot of referrals from just our employees.
Okay.
So I think that, you know, but you would just assume that they would think about that, but sometimes they don't. So you really just have to communicate that with them. Hey, we need some guys. You know any good guys? Send them over. You know, just asking, I think, makes a big difference there. I mean, Indeed, you know, Indeed, we spend a ton of money on Indeed.
Yeah.
And that works pretty well for us, but it's you know, it's get 60 applicants. There's 10 worth calling. 3 of them will never call you back. Set up 7 interviews. 4 of them will show up.
Yeah.
One of them will be a good guy.
A lot of time in that too.
Yeah, a lot of time.
That's a lot of time. That's a lot of names.
It's a lot of effort.
Get one.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort. So our guys locally, our local guys spend a lot of time on that. And we just never let off the pedal, even if it's, you know, even if it is wintertime, we're just always hiring good guys. Always hiring good guys. If a good guy comes in, we just hire him.
Yeah. I think that's important to sit there for a second, that business owners, like, you have to constantly be building your team, adding to your team, fine tuning your team, and to take 100 applicants to get one like that. That's just
tough.
That's just the truth and what's realistic. And I think you kind of got to set your expectations there. And if you're surprised, great. But that's just, business is hard.
I mean, it's service businesses, especially where, you know, the guy that we send out is the product.
Yeah.
That's what we're selling. And so, you know, we have a pretty high threshold set on who we hire and who we don't. And yeah, it's tough, but I think it's, you know, the days are gone, and we used to could do this 2008, 2009, 2010, you know, March, we'd start hiring guys for the summer. Yeah. Right now we're talking about, hey, what are you going to do in May of 2025? How many guys you need? Blah, blah, blah. What's going on? You know, how are you going to get there? What's the game plan? How many of these guys are going to stay? How many of these guys are going to be core guys that are going to stay here year round for you? You know? And so it's about a 3-4 month ahead of the curve process that we're looking at, you know?
Yeah, that's smart, because there's a lot of business owners that are way more reactive and not thinking ahead like that. So
yeah, I mean, we've just been doing it so long. We just know it's going to take that. It just takes that long.
Yeah.
It takes that long.
Well, and from the other side, as you were saying that, I was thinking about anybody out there who's not a business owner. You never know when you're getting interviewed by somebody like David, because I'm sure you're always on the lookout for help.
Absolutely, always.
You might be having an interview and you don't even know it.
I mean, listen, bro, I go to Home Depot and I'm be like, how long you been working at Home Depot, bro?
Yeah.
And what's going on? I mean, he's a sharp guy. He articulates. He's good. He's helpful. I'm like, here's a business card.
Yeah.
Sorry, Home Depot.
They're not listening. It's okay. So, Little Guys to Adolphus.
Little Guys to F45.
Oh, to F45.
Yeah, F45.
Yeah, tell me about that, going into business with your daughter.
Oh yeah, so that's definitely been challenging. Yeah, we've been doing it for 6 years now, and she does an amazing job. But man, you got to really think about, do you want to get involved with your family in business?
Yeah,
because it's challenging. Because you can't just fire them.
Yeah,
they're gonna come to the Thanksgiving dinner. You know, so you can't fire them. You can't kill them. What are you gonna do? You know, you just learn. You just. And she is a lot like me, so we would just like butt heads, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. And she does an amazing job now, and she probably did an amazing job the whole time. Probably part of the struggle was my expectations were way up here for her, not reasonable. Like, I wouldn't talk to her like I would never have talked to a manager at Little Guys the way I talked to her.
Yeah.
Right? No way.
Yeah.
But emotions are different when it's your kid.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but she does an amazing job. We worked through all that. It took us a couple of years, and my wife refereed most of it, you know, and And I was in the wrong most of the time. Probably.
So what are y'all's roles? What's your daughter's role, and what's your role as y'all work through that?
So really, the whole purpose of F45 was to help her set up a business.
Okay.
So I'm her partner, and she runs the show, and I just kind of am the consultant. I try to help her with, anything that she needs and things like that. But, in the beginning, she just was fresh out of college. She got a business degree from Rawls. So she was in a lot of ways probably smarter than me, but I had a lot of experience. And so we just, we locked up a lot on how we did things, how things should be done. And I'm probably more conservative and, old school and blah, blah, blah. But so she runs that. I'm really nearly completely hands off on F45. If we're going to when we opened Lubbock, Amarillo, I went up there and we found a building and negotiated a lease and did all that stuff. But I'm pretty hands off there.
So you have got 2 locations now? Okay.
Yeah. Lubbock and 45th and Sauncey in Amarillo.
Yeah.
And maybe that from a financial standpoint, it's not my biggest win, but when we bought in the first F45 franchise, I weighed 250. I weigh 175 today.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
That might be my biggest win from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to talk about what my biggest win is. It's not limited to one company, but it's people. There's different people in my life that I feel like, obviously my wife, she was a school teacher. If she hadn't supported me, I would have never been able to do any of this. The first year I bought, 1993 or 94, I have to go back and look, ACUF, our gross sales were $57,000 the first year. That's gross sales.
Okay.
I had to pay rent.
Take home
was about this. And my wife kept saying, are you really going up there working? Because you're not bringing home a paycheck.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if you don't pay the electric bill, they cut that off.
Yeah.
If you don't pay the rent, the landlord comes and locks the door. So I'm kind of the last guy to get paid.
But
so
you dug out of that.
Yeah, we dug out of it.
Yeah.
We became successful really in a relatively short period of time. That turned out to be good. It just took a little while. This is what I told my kids that want to be in business. You got to understand delayed gratification.
Yeah.
You got to understand that principle, because it's not going to be easy. And you're going to have, this is what I told Lacey when she started F45. I said, I promise you're going to have this moment where you're laying in bed and you're not making money and you need 2 employees, and you're going to think to yourself at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep, you're going to think, why in the world did I get involved in F45? Why didn't I just go get a job and get a paycheck? And I said, that'll be your defining moment. You'll either get out of bed and go figure out how to solve it, or you'll fold it up and go get a job somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know about you guys, but I've had those moments in nearly every business I've been involved in.
Mm-hmm.
It's never easy.
Yep.
That's one of those things that doesn't get talked about very much, but so many entrepreneurs have that story, that middle of the night, on your knees praying, wondering, how am I going to fix this problem?
Right. I don't know how to fix it.
And then you get to work trying to fix it.
Yeah. You get up. That's what I told her. I said, you get up, you put your pants on, you go to work, and you figure out how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Yep. And
if the first step doesn't fix it, then throw that out and try number 2. And if that doesn't work, throw that out and try number 3. But you just got to solve it.
Yep.
You have no choice, right? You have to solve it. And I think those are the people that are successful entrepreneurs, because they're like, I don't have a choice. I can't fail. I've got too much invested. I've got blah, 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 whatever. I'm going to be successful.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out.
That can't quit attitude. Yeah.
I think so.
That's so important. You only lose if you give up, if you quit.
Right. And inspiring for people who are listening, who are business owners that are in that place right now and waking up in the middle of the night thinking, why am I here? And thinking about quitting, just folding it up. Hearing from somebody like you who's been there, but now, talking about all the things that you've got going. And I know that doesn't mean your headaches are gone either.
No, they're not.
But I think that's inspiring for people who are chasing that. So
It took us at this building that we're building on 112th Street. It took us 2 years to get the permits and all the stuff lined up, the platting, the rezoning, all the things that it took for us to start construction. It took us 2 years. They told us it would take 90 days. It took 2 years.
Wow.
Brutal.
I've been very blessed, and I have spent many a sleepless night over the last couple of years thinking, how in the world am I going to get out of this situation? I can't move forward. I can't move backwards. I just, it's just brutal.
Listen up, city government. We need to make this a little more easy if we want to support our business owners.
For sure. We need to make it more streamlined. Now, I will say, and you can take this for whatever it's worth, and we could have a long discussion on this, because we had a event center. It's had nothing to do with winery and alcohol. That was easy. It was the event center. There's no zoning in the city of Lubbock for an event center. So we had to get a special zoning. Okay, what do you have to do to that? You have to go to the zoning commission twice. You have to go to the city council meeting twice. Okay, great. Let's go. So we go, we tell them the story. They all raise their hand, approve, right? Unanimous each time. 7 minutes. Doesn't take long. We don't have to spend a lot of time explaining what we're doing or convince them. Okay, well, we have to go to 2 of those meetings. Well, when's the next meeting? Oh, well, because of COVID, it's 6 months.
Wow.
6 months before the next meeting.
Dear.
That's terrible. Yeah.
So we did nothing except pay interest on a land that we bought for. And, was that the city council's fault or was that the government? I mean, it's just hard to say, right? It's just hard to, it's hard to really, it's just really hard to say, but it was a struggle. The point is I don't care how successful you are, you can have struggles.
Yeah.
I don't care how good you do, you're going to have struggles. There's going to be roadblocks. But I mean, it's like you said, hey, I don't lose until I sell. Yep. If I just keep fighting and I keep pushing forward.
Yep.
And now we've got this beautiful building that's going over there, about 15,000 square feet. I don't know if you guys have driven by it lately. I know you have.
I haven't. It looks
We need to go
amazing.
look at it. Yeah. I'd love to show you guys.
I
That's
would
exciting.
love
You guys over there
tour.
sometime.
Yeah.
I'd love to give you guys a tour. So let me tell you about what's exciting and what's happening with us over there, because this is our newest adventure. And we started the winery in 2018, by the way. So it's not like super new.
Okay.
We've been making wine since 2018. We have an amazing winemaker. I'll tell you just a little bit of, his name is Manuel Lechuga. He's been making wine for 30 years. In 2018 was our first vintage. We had a wine. We still do have this wine, but we have a 2018 vintage of this wine called Old Friends. It's a white blend. It was named the best white wine in Texas.
Wow.
We had a Chenin Blanc, probably 2019 or 2020. That was, Texas Monthly does this thing called the perfect case of Texas wine. So it's 12 wines, the top 12 wines in Texas, and our Chenin Blanc was in that.
Wow.
We sent a Cabernet, a 2021 Cabernet, to the San Francisco wine competition, which is the biggest wine competition in the world now. It used to be Paris, but now it's San Francisco. It's kind of considered the biggest international wine competition.
Okay.
Gold, it's blind taste test, so they don't know where the wine's from. We sent a Cabernet from Texas to California, got a gold medal.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
What's the name of that?
Yeah.
It's the 2021 Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay.
And then 2022, our Tempranillo got a double gold in there at San Francisco in California. And I couldn't tell you whether we have 70 or 125 medals, but we have got a lot of them. And
That's awesome.
That has nothing to do with me. That's our winemaker. He's amazing. He's amazing. So, and my partner, Jim Irwin, in that business, he and I have been friends for 30 years. Our families have been friends for 30 years. And Adelphus in Greek means brothers. So that's kind of where that came from.
Very cool.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. Brothers, siblings, depending on how you know which verse you're looking at. But so we've been doing that, and they have been amazing. The Irwin family has been amazing, managing the vineyard, managing the winery, doing all the things that they do, and they've really put us in a great place. One of the things that we decided when we started the winery, and it's been a little challenging, is that we weren't going to borrow any money to do it. We were never going to have any debt.
Wow. So
we've done that since then. Now, we had to borrow some money to build that building.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the first money that we ever borrowed. So everything else is free and clear. And because we started in 2018, it takes a couple of years to kind of fill the pipeline up in the wine business because you have to age your red wines. So, towards 2020 is when we could have probably started selling wine. And, in March in 2020, COVID come.
Yep.
They're shutting down all these places. We don't have a tasting room. And we didn't have a tasting room. And it was a real blessing that we didn't have a tasting room, because we would have had all that expense and had to shut it down, right?
Yeah.
But it did kind of change the trajectory of the winery, kind of pushed it back a couple of years. And then we found this land, and we decided, instead of, buying an existing building or renting a place, we wanted to build there. So that's been it. But we've got, 8,000 cases of wine in storage.
Wow.
Which is perfect. I mean, it's not perfect from a cash flow standpoint.
Yeah.
But it's perfect from a standpoint of opening this big building.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot. So it's been, so that seemed like a challenge, but it turned out to be a real blessing too.
Now we've got these award-winning wines right here in West Texas that people can go check out at Adelphus.
That's right. That's right. At delphacellars.com, online, and soon to be over there on 112th Street. Now, we have our working winery out at our vineyards out by Lorenzo, between Lorenzo and Petersburg. And we have some events out there from time to time, but it's, it's a 40-minute drive from here. So this will be great. We're super excited. And let me tell you, this is breaking news. First place that people will hear this in the public realm. So we decided that, and again, I'm sorry, my story, I tell long stories. You guys you can chop them when you want to. That's what this is for. Yeah. So we decided, hey, we're going to build this building. We're going to have this tasting room. We've got really good wine. And we make about 25 or 28 different types of wine. So we have a big variety of wine. But, not everybody likes wine. So I told my partner, and we were talking about it, and I said, man, I think we just need to have some craft beer. Right? And so if you're in the winery business and you own a winery and I own a winery, I can buy wine from you. I can blend it with my wine. I can bottle it. I can sell it. I don't even have to blend it. I could just buy it from you in bulk. I could bottle it, put my label on it, and sell it. So we said, okay, the alcohol system in Texas is really antiquated. And it's called a 3-tier system. So the top tier is a manufacturer. Second tier is a distributor. Third tier is a retailer. If you're in any one of those tiers, you can't be in either of the other 2 tiers. So if you're a manufacturer, you can't be a retailer. If you're a distributor, you can't be a manufacturer or a retailer. If you're a retailer, you can't be a manufacturer or distributor, which creates some challenges for us, because how are we going to sell beer? So we said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to buy a brewery license, about $3,000 a year. Send it to the government, right? Little government tax. And Jim and I will go back here and we'll make about, 10 gallons of beer a month. And it'll probably be terrible. And we'll pour it out on the ground. And we'll go to some of our local breweries and we'll buy some beer, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a great, solid plan. That's what we'd do if we were in the wine business.
Yep.
So we have some questions and we go over and we talk to the TABC guy. We go make an appointment. We sit in his office. And me, I'm just, not too smart sometimes. I should keep my mouth shut. So we're sitting in there and we're talking about this and that and the other. And I said, yeah, we got our brewery license. I said, we're going to make I just told him that story that I told you. And he goes, sir, that's illegal. You can't do that. I said, what? He goes, you can't buy beer from another brewery. I said, you're kidding me. I can buy wine from another winery. He goes, yep. He goes, but the rules are different. And he said, you can't buy beer from another brewery.
Wow.
Yeah. So Jim and I are kind of sitting there looking at each other like this. I was like, yeah, well, just forget that story.
Yeah.
Cat's already out of the bag, right? I'm not going to be able to do that under the radar.
Yep.
So the good news is we're putting in a brewery. We've already contacted a brewmaster to come get that thing off the ground for us and get it going. We're in the process of ordering a bunch of stainless steel equipment and spend a whole bunch more money.
Wow.
But we're going to have a brewery. So I'm super excited about that too. We didn't really get started in this business to do that, but I think it's a whole another leg of this company that could be super successful.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling like, and I don't know who it is, but pretty much everybody in this business is family. And pretty much is family. And I just got this feeling in my bones that there's somebody that's going to say, listen, I love this. I want to do this. I want to be the brewmaster. I want to go to school. I want to learn how to do this. I want to and if somebody would take a hold of it, I think it could be as big as the winery.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, there's more beer drinkers in Texas than there are wine drinkers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think we have a great opportunity.
Well, and knowing you're going to find somebody to do a good job of it. Like, who was the winemaker's name that you have?
Manuel Lechuga.
Yeah,
and
you'll
and
have
he
another Manuel in there at some point. I know.
think we will. So it's interesting to see. Our business model was just to create an opportunity for somebody to have a beer if they didn't like wine. Hey, honey, let's go over to the winery today. I don't really, there's nothing over there I want to drink. Well, yeah, there is. We got 4 craft beers. And I really wanted it to, and still really kind of would like for it to have been from the local breweries here. But the law won't allow us to do that. So we're just going to saddle up and make some beer.
All right.
Saddle up and make some beer.
I like Texas slogan.
I
if
like
I've ever
that.
heard one.
Yeah.
I
So
like
we're
that.
excited about that. I'm super excited about
That's
it.
cool.
Man, that you have so many different things that are going on that are so relationship driven.
Yep.
It's all relationship driven, right?
Right.
Yep.
Isn't really all business relationship driven no matter what you do?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
I mean, maybe there's some one hit things, like this was just a great deal and I bought this from this guy in California. I'll never see him again.
Yeah.
Right.
But generally they're relational. Who brought you that deal? How'd you even know about that deal?
Yep.
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 They can't buy your emus unless they know about you.
So they don't,
first.
that's right. That's right. And, and the other part of that, the third leg of that Adelphus winery thing is we knew that when we found that land, I mean, it's at 112th in Indiana, so it's not cheap land.
Nope.
It's expensive.
Nope.
So we knew that we were going to need to build something that would cash flow positive, right? So we decided that we were going to build an event center too on there. And we talked about the struggles with the event center. But, one of my other daughters, Andrea, is going to manage the event center. She's got a degree also from the Rawls in business and marketing. So she's heading up that piece of the puzzle for us.
She'll be great. I've met her.
She'll be great.
She's talented.
And she's got a twin sister, Bailey, who is actually kind of doing triple duty. She's spending time at the event center at F45 and taking care of kind of all the administrative, the bookkeeping and the books and QuickBooks and all that. So we got a strong team.
Yeah.
And
Something strong in the blood.
about, the wife's blood. We started 5 or 6 weeks ago. Sometimes time eludes me, but I think 5 or 6 weeks ago, we started booking weddings at the event center because we're getting close. And we said, we're going to finish the construction in end of October, which for me, when the contractor says end of October, that means like mid-November, right?
Mhm.
That's what I think.
At
And
best.
so maybe at best, yeah. So I'm being optimistic. So I think we're going to be open December. I said, hey, let's don't book anything before February because I'm not going to call somebody
Yes.
and tell them. I don't care if we don't have anything in the event center for a couple months. I'm not calling somebody and saying, hey, look, I know you plan to have your wedding here, but we're not going to be finished. So we waited till February. We feel very comfortable about that. Our contractor feels very comfortable about that. So 6 weeks ago, we opened the books. We started booking weddings. And I think Andrea booked the 12th wedding yesterday, 12
Wow.
or 13 weddings.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
she's actually doing venue tours about 3 or 4 days a week. And she's booking it. It's about an 80% booking rate. So I'm just super excited about the venue. I think people are really seeing the vision of what we're doing over there. And
That's amazing.
It doesn't even have any sheetrock up yet. They're still doing some internal stuff in the walls. So we still have a little ways to go, but we got good renderings and good stuff. And I think people can see it. It's not only the building, it's the location. The location's really good.
Yeah, it's a great location.
Yeah. Yeah. We're super excited
In the
about
middle of everything going on in Lubbock. Well, time flies when you're having fun. I want to.
it. Was there any questions you wanted me to answer without a long?
No. We have kind of our fire round at the end of it. So I don't know how much you read, but what's kind of your top 3 book recommendations for budding entrepreneurs or business
Well, these are
leaders?
old books. I did see that question, and so I went back and looked at kind of what some books that I have. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective.
Yeah,
Guys.
yeah.
That's just like bedrock.
Yeah, Stephen Covey.
Yeah, how to win friends and influence people. I think that's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Atomic Habits, not quite as popular as the other two, but I think it was really good for me.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think that was a good one. And then it really got me thinking about it. So over the last week, I've been kind of doing a little bit of research, and I think I've got, maybe you guys have read this book. Maybe you can tell me, Extreme Ownership.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read
Jocko.
it?
Yeah.
Jocko.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's on my list to read.
He's very good about intertwining stories with his principles, and he's a colorful fella.
That. Yeah. I think I like that.
He's got a good podcast too.
Yeah. And he looks exactly like I thought he would.
I have seen him. Yeah. And then Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. You read that one too?
I like that
and
one.
You guys are on.
Albert reads everything. I've read some of these, but not all.
That was a good. Well, when I was training for a marathon, I listened.
Listened
to that one. And I mean, if you need a shot in your arm and some caffeine,
he's the guy.
Put that book on there. I don't know about his personal life, but as far as getting motivated and not wanting to quit, that's a good one.
I did see a podcast that he was on with, the UFC guy. What's his name?
Joe Rogan.
Oh, Joe. Yeah, Joe Rogan. And he and Joe went to the gym. Did you happen to catch that?
No.
One? And so he goes, "How many pull-ups can you do, Joe?" And Joe goes, "I don't know, maybe 6 or 7." So he gets on there and he pumps out 6 or 7 or 8 pull-ups, which, he's a pretty heavy guy. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, he's like 57, 58.
Yeah. And he hits the ground and guys goes, "I see what your problem is." He goes, We're not leaving here till you do 100 pull-ups.
What?
They stayed like 7.5 hours and he did 100 pull-ups.
Oh, dear.
That's wild.
And I just thought,
friends like that.
With friends like that, who needs enemies, right?
I guess, but I mean, just the concept of you can do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. You can do it. I think that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
The entrepreneurial spirit, maybe not to the X factor that.
Yes. Not
of
forsaking
David Goggins.
all other relationships in your life, but
running a marathon and breaking your ankle and just getting some duct tape and taping it up and keep running.
Yes.
I heard that on that thing too, it's craziness. But I mean, to some degree, that's what creates success, right? Just that
resilience.
We're not, I mean,
the grit.
I would love it if I could just hit home runs every time, but it doesn't happen very often.
Nope.
Yeah. Doesn't happen.
Nope. That doesn't get shared on social media and Facebook. That's not the story
That's not what
people hear,
like.
but that's just the reality.
That's reality.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. Last question. What is one piece of technology that maybe not everybody knows about that you've used that's been impactful for you personally in your business or life or whatever?
Man, I'm not really a tech guy. I really thought about this one too, because
it doesn't have to be super techie. It can be, just a piece of equipment.
I don't really have any techie stuff. I'm not really a techie guy. We have got really good CRMs in all of our companies. We've got really good software. We've got really good ways to track. We've got all this stuff. We did create in our CRM, our franchisors for little guys did create a ROI screen where we can see exactly the return on every dollar that we spend on advertising.
Wow.
That's really cool.
That is cool.
That's
super cool.
People don't do that. People
now
don't do
say that. Every bit of advertising, not every bit, but if we're doing Google, Facebook, Instagram, videos on YouTube, those are all trackable. When they come in, we can see where they come from. We can see wherever job came from, or it came from organic, or it came from wherever. So any of our paid advertising online, we can track down to the dollar.
And that was homemade, or is that something that comes with the CRM?
Well, they created our CRM. They had software guys create the CRM.
Man.
Yeah, it's in depth.
That's
deep. And so I think that's good.
Well, I was going to say I've worked with business owners that had these things custom made for them, and I know that it's worth it usually for the investment if you have a clear vision of what you want to read out, and
right.
Those metrics can go a long way.
They go
for
a
your
long
business.
way.
Yeah,
and they go a long way. I was thinking that's the biggest piece of tech we have. But last year, my wife and I it's the first time we'd ever been to Europe, but we got to go on vacation to Europe. So we're sitting in the airport in Dallas, fixing to go to London, and I've got a iPad. No, I've got a MacBook Pro.
Mm-hmm.
It's only about this big, right? It's not very big. So I'm sitting there working on it, and I see this girl sitting beside me, and she's got an iPad, a lot like yours, you know, and a little bit smaller, and it's got what catches my eyes. It's got that iPad case with the, what's it called? You know,
like a keyboard.
Yeah, the keyboard. Yeah, whatever the specific Apple one is. You know, everyone's $100 and that one's $300.
Yeah,
and I'm like, hey, do you like that keyboard? She goes, oh yeah, it's absolutely worth the extra money. And I was like, okay. And she's talking, tapping on mine. She goes, you got the big one there. And I was like, yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just a laptop, right? She goes, is that the mainframe for your company? And I was like, okay, I got to go buy an iPad, because I thought it was pretty small and convenient. And she was like, no, you got it. That's too big.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, lesson learned. So I got an iPad with one of those Apple things.
Cool.
I carry it around all the time. It's fantastic. You know, it's better. It is easier, but not a super techie guy.
That's okay. That's okay. Not everyone is. So how can we send people to you? How can people get in touch with you, do business with you, get a hold of you?
Wow. I mean, any of our companies have a website. You know, it's just the name plus.com, littleguys.com, adelphascellars.com, F45.com. F45 would be a little different, because then you'd have to look up our location, Lubbock or Amarillo. We have social media on, you know, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I think maybe that's it.
And we'll link all of that in our show notes. So anybody listening, if they want to find you, they should be able to just scroll down there and click.
Well, hey, yeah, they should. Absolutely. Thank you for doing that, guys. You didn't have to do that, but we appreciate it.
You bet. And thank you so much for coming on our podcast. Those are great stories and great lessons. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. A lot of colorful stories. One of our favorite interviews that we've had so far, a serial entrepreneur that has so much going on. And if you liked what you heard and you want more like that, click the subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, help us, don't be greedy, help us share this podcast with the needy, and help us get the word out. We appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.